Note-taking is an incredibly important part of college. So, why don't more classes spend time on taking good notes? What's the point in waking up early to show up for a lecture if you're just going to sit slumped down in your desk like you're watching an episode of Love Island? Just letting the information float in one ear and out the other, and perhaps if you're lucky, you might retain half of it. So instead of passive listening, we are going to learn to practice active listening by taking organized and detailed notes. There are many different ways you can organize your notes. Some techniques include sorting them with bullet points. You can also use a technique known as mind mapping, where you draw out all of your notes into sort of a flowchart design. This can be very helpful for visual learners. A more in-depth method is called the Cornell method. The Cornell method divides the page into 3 sections. The largest section of the page is for your class notes. They need to be organized in bullet points and color-coded. You also want to abbreviate as much as possible to maximize your space. On the far left of the page is where you would place page citations, direct quotes, or your own personal questions and observations. The bottom of the page is reserved for a brief summary of all of the information on the page. All of these techniques have their own strengths and weaknesses, so once you find a method that works best for you, make sure that you maintain consistency. The next step to taking better notes, write them out by hand. This will make it easier to organize your notes either with spacing and bullet points or by color coding. For example, a system of color coding math notes may choose to use a different color for each type of information. Handwritten notes make adding visual aids to your notes much easier. In fact, a great way to include visual aids is to draw them on Post-it notes. That way, if you're like me and you're completely devoid of any artistic talent, then you can try over and over and over again until you finally get something that looks somewhat recognizable. Finally, make the most of your resources. Using separate notebooks for each class makes keeping all of your notes in one place much, much easier. Writing your notes on grid paper instead of college rule allows for much more organizational structure and makes visual aids and charts much easier to fit in. Bring multiple colors of pens and highlighters to each class. This way, you can swap back and forth to easily color code your notes. Then take those notes and type them up every night following class. This will give you a chance to go back over the material while it's still fresh in your mind. It's also much easier to organize typed notes when you don't try and do it in real time. In addition to that, you will now have access to a digital, easily transferable, and searchable version of your notes that you can take with you anywhere that you have your phone. The best way to improve your note-taking skills is to be consistent in your note style, to write them by hand and then type them up that night, and finally, to make full use of your resources, like multiple notebooks and different colors to write with, so that your notes stay organized and the important parts pop out. Thank you for joining us for this mini workshop. Workshops are presented by the Odessa College Academic Success Workshop. For more information on upcoming workshops or to request a topic for a workshop, please contact us at lrc@odessa.edu.